The universe is vast, full of incredible mysteries and advanced civilizations that stretch across galaxies. For centuries, species across the stars have advanced technologically, solved the deepest problems of science, and built magnificent empires. Yet despite all their intelligence, one challenge had remained unsolved: the ultimate puzzle of the galaxy. This puzzle was said to be beyond the reach of any known species, a riddle that had stumped the brightest minds of countless worlds. One day, the entire galaxy was shocked when a mysterious message appeared in the sky, encrypted and unlike anything ever seen before. It wasn't a message from any familiar species, nor was it a call for help or war. It was a challenge, an invitation to the most difficult intellectual puzzle the galaxy had ever known. The message was clear in its purpose: the galaxy's hardest puzzle. It had been scattered across the stars, arriving in the minds of those who could decipher it. Alien leaders, scientists, and AI beings from every corner of the galaxy began to scramble to understand the message. Entire fleets of ships were launched to gather the best minds in the universe, each one hoping to solve what was thought to be impossible. But no matter how much advanced technology they used, how many resources they threw at it, the puzzle remained unsolved. It seemed beyond the grasp of even the most brilliant civilizations. The more they tried, the more frustrated they became. It seemed to mock their advanced intellects, as if it was designed specifically to be unsolvable by them. And then, just as hope seemed to be fading, a new message appeared. This one wasn't from an alien race, nor a highly advanced AI. It came from a small, unexpected source: a human child. Luca, a young boy from a small, insignificant planet called Earth, was invited to take on the challenge. The message made it clear: Luca was the one who was meant to solve the puzzle. For the aliens, this was the last straw. The idea that a human, seen as a primitive and unremarkable species, could solve a puzzle that had defeated their greatest minds was laughable. Humans were far behind the advanced races, technologically and intellectually. They had no space-faring empires, no great armies, no powerful AI at their command. To the galaxy's finest, the idea that Luca would succeed was nothing short of absurd. As the message echoed across the stars, it made waves of disbelief ripple through the alien civilizations. Many laughed at the thought. How could a human child, someone with no advanced knowledge, possibly solve something that even the most sophisticated minds couldn't crack? But the invitation was clear. And despite their skepticism, something about the challenge felt different. There was a strange power behind it, a force that made the aliens uneasy. It was almost as if the message itself knew something they didn't. Luca, an ordinary child from an ordinary world, stood at the center of the galaxy's greatest mystery. He was to face the galaxy's hardest puzzle, and in doing so, perhaps change the fate of the universe forever. The tension was rising as the galaxy prepared to witness something no one could have predicted. Despite the mocking laughter and the disbelief, Luca stepped forward. The child had no idea what he was about to face. He was nervous, unsure of what to expect, but there was one thing he knew for certain: he had to try. This was his chance to prove that humans, despite their simplicity and their small place in the grand scheme of the universe, were capable of far more than anyone realized. The alien leaders, who had seen the best of their kind fail, now turned their eyes on Luca with a mix of disbelief and disdain. They believed that the puzzle was simply beyond human comprehension. But the invitation was real, and Luca's arrival stirred something deep inside them. They weren't sure what to expect, but they were certain of one thing: this human child would fail. The invitation was a test, not just of intellect, but of humanity itself. What would the humans do when faced with something that no one else could conquer? The galaxy was about to find out. And as the challenge began, the entire universe watched with bated breath, wondering, could a human child really solve the galaxy's hardest puzzle? Luca's heart raced as the massive spaceship descended into the unknown. He had been brought to a futuristic space station, suspended high above a dead planet. The station was a marvel of alien technology, its sleek metallic surface gleaming in the distance as it orbited the lifeless world below. Inside the station, there was a high-tech chamber that housed the infamous puzzle, a challenge that had confounded the greatest minds in the galaxy for years. As Luca entered the chamber, his eyes widened at the sight. The room was filled with shimmering holograms, floating symbols, and constantly shifting geometric shapes. The air buzzed with energy, and the walls seemed to pulse with an intelligence of their own. The puzzle, unlike anything Luca had ever seen, seemed to defy all logic and time. Its movements were fluid and unpredictable, as though it was alive, testing anyone who dared to attempt solving it. It was a strange fusion of art and intellect, an enigma that had baffled the galaxy's most brilliant scientists, AI experts, and alien leaders. The fact that a human child was now standing in front of it, ready to face it, was both laughable and unsettling to those who watched. The alien factions that had gathered around the chamber, beings from different corners of the galaxy, including advanced AI and powerful leaders, had already spent years trying to solve the puzzle. They had tried everything, from quantum computing to the manipulation of gravity, and yet the puzzle remained unsolved. The aliens, each with their own set of unique abilities, had come up empty. All their attempts to solve it had failed. As Lucas stood there, wide-eyed and unsure of what to do next, the aliens sneered and exchanged mocking glances. They could not fathom how a human child, with no advanced technology and no understanding of their ways, could possibly have any chance of solving it. The species that had no intergalactic empire, no fleets of warships, no AI systems that could think for them, was about to face a puzzle that had eluded the best and brightest minds of the galaxy. The aliens' ridicule only grew louder when one of their leaders, a towering and ruthless general named Zoreth, stepped forward. Zoreth was known across the galaxy for his cold demeanor and brutal tactics in battle. He had never lost a fight, and he had a reputation for crushing anything or anyone who dared challenge him. Standing tall in his dark armor, Zoreth looked down at Luca with disdain. "Humans are not built for such grand tasks," Zoreth said, his voice dripping with condescension. "You are primitive. You will fail, just as all the others have before you." The alien factions around them chuckled at Zoreth's words, certain that the child would not last more than a few minutes before giving up. They expected Luca to freeze in the face of the impossible challenge, just as any other creature would. But they underestimated one thing: Luca's determination. The young boy refused to be intimidated, despite the odds against him. Luca stood tall, his gaze unwavering. He knew that the aliens saw him as nothing more than a mere child, incapable of understanding the complexities that lay before him. But what they didn't know was that humans had something unique, a way of thinking that was unlike any other species in the galaxy. Humans were resourceful, creative, and above all, intuitive. They didn't rely solely on technology or calculations to solve problems. They relied on something more fundamental: imagination. Luca took a deep breath, his eyes scanning the puzzle before him. The symbols shifted, the geometric shapes rotated in and out of existence. There was no obvious solution, no clear path to follow. But Luca didn't panic. Instead, he felt an instinctive pull, as though the puzzle itself was calling to him, trying to communicate. His fingers hovered just above the surface of the holograms, as though waiting for the right moment to touch them. As Luca stepped forward, his fingers brushed lightly against the symbols. To everyone's surprise, the puzzle reacted. The lights in the room flickered as the shapes began to glow faintly, responding to Luca's touch. The room hummed with energy, and for the first time, there was a sense of movement, as if the puzzle had come alive. The aliens watching from the sidelines were stunned into silence. The child's touch had made the puzzle react in a way that none of them had been able to achieve. Luca felt a surge of confidence, but the pressure weighed heavily on him. The entire galaxy was watching, and the hopes of humanity rested on his shoulders. He couldn't afford to fail. He took another step, his fingers now making delicate movements across the glowing shapes, tracing their lines and patterns. He could feel the puzzle shifting beneath his touch, as though it was adapting to his presence. There was something almost personal about it. Meanwhile, the alien factions scrambled to their consoles, frantically trying to manipulate the puzzle with their advanced technologies. They used AI to predict its movements. They tried quantum computing to analyze the patterns, and they even attempted to alter the room's gravity in hopes of shifting the puzzle's structure. But despite all their efforts, nothing worked. The puzzle refused to respond to anything other than Luca's touch. The more they tried, the more frustrated they became. The room was silent except for the hum of the puzzle's energy, the only sound that filled the chamber. Luca's heart raced as he concentrated, trying to piece together the patterns in front of him. It wasn't just about solving the puzzle. It was about showing the galaxy that humanity was capable of greatness, that a human child could succeed where the greatest minds had failed. The aliens began to grow uneasy. Time was ticking, and the galaxy's hopes were pinned on Luca. Zorath, who had been so confident in his dismissal of the child, now watched with a mixture of disbelief and growing anxiety. If Luca succeeded, it would be a blow to the alien egos. A human, a species they had all underestimated, would have solved the greatest challenge in the galaxy, and they would be forced to acknowledge that humanity had something they had never considered: the ability to think outside the box, to approach problems from a different angle. The puzzle was moving, responding to Luca's touch, and the aliens were starting to see the impossible happening before their eyes. Would Luca be able to solve it? Would humanity prove to the galaxy that they were more than just an insignificant species? Only time would tell, but one thing was certain. The galaxy's expectations were shifting, and Luca had the chance to change everything. The chamber was filled with an eerie silence. Luca, standing in front of the galaxy's greatest puzzle, focused intently on the glowing symbols and shifting patterns. His mind raced, trying to make sense of the cryptic shapes that hovered before him. The aliens, however, were no longer paying attention to him. They were too absorbed in their own failed attempts, each one using the most advanced technology they had at their disposal. The AI beings, their computing powers unmatched, analyzed the puzzle's every movement, but their efforts were in vain. The alien leaders, from distant empires, utilized their quantum computers, manipulating the gravity around the puzzle, trying to force it to reveal its secrets. Nothing worked. Luca watched them for a moment, then turned back to the puzzle. The symbols were unlike anything he had ever seen, yet something about them felt strangely familiar. He stared at the puzzle longer, his fingers lightly brushing over the surface, his mind trying to decipher the patterns. As he focused, he noticed a subtle shift. The puzzle seemed to vibrate gently beneath his touch. It was as though it was alive, reacting to him in a way that it never had before. And then something unexpected happened. Luca did something the aliens had not thought of. He closed his eyes. He stopped trying to solve the puzzle with logic or technology, like everyone else had. Instead, he listened. The vibrations of the puzzle began to hum softly in his ears, almost like a melody. It was faint at first, but as he listened closely, the sound grew clearer. The vibrations weren't random. They followed a rhythm, a pattern. It was music. Luca's eyes flew open in realization. The puzzle was not just a series of symbols. It was a sequence, a melody hidden in plain sight. It was something humans could recognize, something that transcended technology. Music. The vibrations corresponded to the notes of a simple melody, a pattern that was completely alien to the technologically advanced beings in the room. But to Luca, it was all too familiar. Music was part of humanity's essence, something that resonated with their emotions, their creativity, their very souls. With a quiet hum, Luca began to sing the melody, his voice soft and steady. The puzzle responded immediately. The glowing symbols shifted in perfect harmony with the notes, creating a new sequence. Luca's heart raced with excitement, but it was quickly drowned out by the stunned gasps of the aliens around him. Zoreth, the ruthless alien general who had mocked Luca from the beginning, stared in disbelief. His face twisted into a grimace, anger flashing across his features. He had been so sure that humans were incapable of solving the puzzle, but here was this child, doing what no one else could. Zoreth's pride and authority were being shattered before his very eyes. The room fell into silence again, the tension palpable. The other alien leaders, who had been so sure that technology would triumph, exchanged confused glances. They had not expected this. They had underestimated humanity. The humans, whom they considered primitive, had done the unthinkable. They had cracked the first layer of the puzzle with nothing more than music, a force the aliens had never considered. As Luca continued, the puzzle's response grew stronger. The symbols glowed brighter, and the puzzle began to open up before him, revealing new patterns that seemed to dance in the air. The more he solved, the more the puzzle seemed to want to reveal its secrets to him. It was as though it was recognizing Luca's unique way of thinking, a way that blended intuition and creativity, something that the galaxy's most advanced beings had never been able to grasp. But with each solved piece, the room grew more charged. The aliens watched helplessly, some of them shaking their heads in disbelief. They had given everything they had, every ounce of their intelligence, and yet the puzzle seemed to only respond to Luca's human touch. Among the crowd, one alien, Bonner, a scientist from a distant world, started to look at Luca differently. Bonner had initially dismissed Luca as just another weak, primitive human, but now he was starting to see the child in a new light. He saw the spark of something greater in Luca, a force that was untapped, a potential that the galaxy had failed to recognize. With every sequence Luca solved, Bonner began to respect him more. There was no denying it now. Luca was succeeding where the greatest minds had failed. But just as Luca was about to solve another sequence, Bonner's voice broke through the growing silence. "Luca," he said quietly, stepping forward, "be careful. The final step, it's dangerous. The puzzle, it isn't just a test of intelligence. There are risks. If you push too hard, if you try to finish it, you might cause something catastrophic." Luca turned to Bonner, his expression calm but determined. He had heard the warning, but something deep within him told him to press on. The puzzle was more than just an intellectual challenge. It was a test of courage, of determination. It was a chance for humanity to prove that they were more than just a footnote in the history of the galaxy. "I won't stop now," Luca said, his voice steady and full of conviction. "I've come this far, and I won't let fear stop me. The galaxy may doubt us, but humanity will show them that we are capable of greatness." Bonner's face softened as he saw the determination in Luca's eyes. He respected the child's bravery, but he also understood the gravity of the situation. "You're not just solving a puzzle," Bonner warned. "You're unlocking something far more powerful. If you complete it, the consequences could be far beyond what you can imagine." But Luca didn't hesitate. He had come this far, and there was no turning back. He had already defied the galaxy's expectations. Now he was determined to finish what he had started, to prove to the galaxy that humans, no matter how small or weak they might seem, could achieve the impossible. The puzzle had already responded to his touch in ways no one else could comprehend. Now Luca was ready to take the final step. As the puzzle's symbols continued to shift and respond to his melody, Luca took a deep breath. He was no longer just a human child. He was a symbol of something greater. The potential of humanity, the drive to overcome, and the strength to face the unknown. The puzzle had been cracked, but the final phase would require all of Luca's courage. Would he succeed? Or would he trigger the catastrophic event that Bonner had warned about? The galaxy's future, and humanity's place within it, rested on Luca's next move. Luca's hands trembled as he reached the final stages of the puzzle. The glowing symbols shifted around him, and the last sequence of notes formed in his mind. He was so close to unlocking the ultimate secret of the galaxy's hardest puzzle. The aliens around him held their breath, waiting to see if Luca could really complete it. but they had no idea what was about to happen. Without warning, the chamber suddenly came to life. A low hum filled the air as the walls began to shake. Holographic images flickered around the room, forming into giant, menacing alien warships. They were massive, with gleaming metallic surfaces and sleek, deadly designs. Weapons systems powered up, their turrets turning toward Luca with a deadly precision. The once calm and quiet chamber transformed into a battlefield in an instant. Luca barely had time to react as beams of destructive energy shot from the warships, streaking across the room. The beams slammed into the space station, tearing through its outer defenses. The station's shields flickered, barely holding up under the strain. A countdown appeared on the walls, ticking down ominously. The puzzle chamber's defenses had been triggered, and they were not going to let Luca complete the puzzle without a fight. But Luca did not falter. The flashing lights of the warships and the chaos around him could not distract him. His mind was focused solely on the puzzle before him. His body moved instinctively, his fingers tracing the symbols in the air as he hummed the final note, a note filled with all the emotion and determination that humanity could muster. The final element of the puzzle was a complex series of finger movements, delicate and precise. It was nothing like the cold, calculated technology the aliens had used, and it seemed impossible for anyone other than a human to understand. The aliens had tried to force their way through the puzzle with their advanced tech, but it was Luca's humanity that allowed him to reach this point. The alien warships fired again, their lasers cutting through space with terrifying accuracy, but Luca ignored the danger. His fingers moved faster, the music in his mind driving him forward. Meanwhile, Bonner, the alien who had begun to believe in Luca's abilities, realized the gravity of the situation. The warships weren't just a defense mechanism. They were a signal of something much more dangerous. Bonner's eyes widened as he realized that Luca was about to unlock the final phase of the puzzle. And if he succeeded, it would trigger a chain of events that the galaxy's leaders might not be able to control. Bonner looked at Luca, his face set with resolve. "You need more time," Bonner said to himself, his voice barely a whisper. Without hesitation, he turned and ran toward the exit, knowing that he had to help. His mind raced as he formulated a plan. If he could create a diversion, he might be able to buy Luca the precious seconds needed to finish the puzzle. In an instant, Bonner activated a series of explosives placed around the station. The blasts reverberated through the walls, creating a massive explosion that sent debris floating through the zero gravity of the chamber. The alien warships momentarily lost their targeting systems, and the weapons fired off course, missing Luca by mere inches. The distractions gave Luca just enough time to make his move. With the final sequence in his mind, Luca moved faster than ever before. His body flowed naturally, his fingers tracing the patterns with the grace of a musician playing an intricate melody. The air around him seemed to hum with energy as the symbols on the puzzle responded to his touch. The final note rang out, echoing through the chamber as the puzzle completed. The room was filled with a burst of light as the puzzle's final sequence locked into place. The holographic warships flickered and disappeared, their weapons systems powering down. The countdown on the wall came to a halt, and the space station's shields stabilized. For a moment, everything was silent. But Luca was not done yet. His heart raced as he realized what had just happened. He had solved the puzzle, but the consequences were far from over. The aliens were not going to let him leave without a fight, and Bonner's sacrifice had only bought him a few precious seconds. The battle was far from over, and now Luca had to escape the wrath of the galaxy's most advanced military forces. The space station, once a peaceful place of study, had turned into a battlefield. The walls were cracked and charred from the laser blasts, and floating debris filled the zero-gravity environment. Luca's breathing quickened as he turned to face the chaos. He could see the alien soldiers outside, their ships firing relentlessly, but there was no time to waste. He had completed the puzzle, but now he needed to survive. With a final glance at the now dormant puzzle, Luca sprinted toward the escape pods. The alien warships continued to attack, but their efforts were futile. The station's defenses, weakened by the assault, couldn't hold out for long. Luca's only chance was to escape, and he was willing to risk everything to do so. As he reached the pod, Bonner's voice echoed in his mind. The alien had sacrificed himself to save Luca, and now it was up to him to finish what he had started. The galaxy had underestimated humanity, but Luca had proven that even a child could stand up to the galaxy's greatest challenges. Now, as the escape pod launched into the unknown, Luca knew that he had only begun his journey. The puzzle had been solved, but the future of humanity was still uncertain. As Luca looked out into the vast expanse of space, he realized that the galaxy would never be the same again. Humanity had earned its place among the stars, and no matter what came next, the universe would never forget the human child who dared to solve the galaxy's hardest puzzle. The station was quiet now. The once distracting chaos had subsided. No more blasts, no more flashing lights or alarms. The silence felt heavy, filled with a strange sense of finality. Luca stood in the center of the puzzle chamber, his heart still racing from the action. He had completed it. The final note was played, the last symbol unlocked, and the secrets of the puzzle revealed. But what did it mean? What was the purpose of this seemingly impossible challenge? As the last holographic images faded away, a new display appeared in front of Luca. It wasn't a message or a pattern, but something far deeper, more significant. The hologram projected a vast map of the galaxy, filled with countless stars and planets. But there, at the very heart of the galaxy, was a small blinking symbol. It pulsed slowly, as though it were alive. Beneath it, in simple text, a message appeared. The key to universal peace lies not in power or riches, but in understanding. The words echoed in Luca's mind, and for a moment, he simply stood there, staring at the hologram, trying to comprehend what he had just unlocked. The puzzle wasn't about gaining control over the galaxy or wealth or technology. No, the puzzle's true purpose was to reveal the answer to a question that had been asked for centuries. How could the galaxy achieve peace? The puzzle had been designed to test humanity's creativity, its willingness to overcome its limits, and think beyond the traditional concepts of power. The galaxy's greatest minds, with their advanced technology and intellect, had failed because they couldn't see past their own limitations. They relied on logic, on cold science, on the strength of their civilizations. But Luca, a simple child from Earth, had solved it with intuition, with human creativity, with a spark that no other species seemed to possess. Luca felt the weight of the realization settle on his shoulders. Humanity was more than just a primitive race. Humans weren't just survivors. They were innovators. They could think differently, solve problems in ways no one else could. And that was what the galaxy needed. But the victory was bittersweet. As Luca looked around the chamber, his eyes fell on the spot where Bonner had fallen. The alien had sacrificed himself to ensure Luca's safety, creating a diversion at the cost of his life. Bonner had believed in Luca, and now Luca had proven him right. But the cost of this victory was immense. Bonner's final words echoed in Luca's mind. Humanity's heart is its strength. The words were simple, but they held so much meaning. Humanity wasn't just strong because of its technology or military power. It wasn't just the physical strength or the weapons humans had at their disposal. It was the heart, the drive to persevere, to create, to love, and to find solutions where others saw only problems. That was humanity's true power. Luca felt a lump form in his throat as he stood there, thinking of Bonner. He had never expected the alien to believe in him so strongly. Bonner had seen something in Luca that the rest of the galaxy hadn't. The child had unlocked a power no one had expected, the power of human ingenuity. As Luca took a deep breath, he wiped away a tear that had fallen unnoticed down his cheek. The victory was sweet, but it came at a high price. Bonner was gone, and Luca's heart ached, knowing that the alien had sacrificed himself for him, for humanity's future. With a heavy heart, Luca turned away from the puzzle and walked toward the exit of the chamber. He had completed the task, but his journey was far from over. The galaxy now had a new purpose: peace, understanding, and cooperation. But Luca knew that humanity would have to fight for it. There would be those who resisted change, who clung to their old ways of thinking. There would be wars, struggles, and battles ahead. But with humanity's heart as its strength, Luca knew they could overcome anything. As he walked down the dimly lit corridors of the space station, Luca thought about the challenges that lay ahead. The galaxy was a vast place, filled with countless civilizations, each with its own history, culture, and way of life. But now, humanity had something that no one else had. They had the key to unlocking peace, and with that key in hand, Luca knew that the future of the galaxy would be different. But the price of progress was always sacrifice. Bonner's death would not be in vain. Luca would carry the memory of his sacrifice with him always, and as humanity moved forward, they would remember that it wasn't strength, technology, or wealth that made them powerful. It was their creativity, their heart, and their unwavering will to survive. Luca stepped out into the cold expanse of space, the stars stretching out before him. The future was uncertain, but one thing was clear. Humanity had earned its place among the stars. They had proven that they could not only survive but thrive, even in the face of unimaginable odds. And as Luca looked out into the vast galaxy, he felt a sense of hope rise within him. It was a hope that one day the galaxy would be united, not through power or force, but through understanding, creativity, and the strength of the human heart. The station, once a battleground of flashing lights, weapons fire, and chaos, had fallen silent. Luca stood at the heart of the puzzle chamber, his fingers still trembling from the intensity of the final moments. His eyes scanned the remnants of the puzzle's display, which had just revealed a message that would forever change the galaxy. But for Luca, it wasn't the victory that dominated his thoughts. It was the price, the cost of progress that he and his new allies had paid. As Luca made his way out of the chamber, the station's atmosphere seemed to change. No longer filled with hostility and derision, it was now charged with a different energy. Alien leaders and scientists who had once scorned humanity now regarded Luca with a newfound respect. The galaxy, which had once dismissed humans as primitive, now acknowledged them as equal players in the grand cosmic order. Zorath, the alien general who had mocked Luca's participation from the very beginning, approached him with a humbled expression. The once cold, calculating general now wore a look of reluctant admiration. Zorath's initial contempt had melted away, replaced by a grudging respect for the human child who had solved the galaxy's most impossible puzzle. "I was wrong about you, human," Zorath said, his voice uncharacteristically soft. "You have proven that humanity's potential is limitless. I offer my allegiance." Luca looked up at the imposing alien. His first instinct was to reject the offer, to remind Zorath of the mockery he had faced. But Luca was no longer a child filled with rage or bitterness. He had learned that the key to peace was understanding, and to understand meant embracing the potential for growth in others, even those who had once been enemies. He nodded at Zorath. "Together, we can build something better," Luca replied, his voice calm but filled with conviction. The words were simple, but they carried weight. The galaxy, once divided by its differences, now found itself on the brink of something new. Zorath's offer of allegiance was just the beginning. Alien factions, once hostile to one another, began to see the possibilities of unity. The puzzle had unlocked a truth far greater than anyone had expected, that peace was possible, but it required more than just technology or power. It required humanity's unique ability to think creatively, to understand, and to care. The alliance was not formed through treaties or wars, but through the shared realization that the universe was bigger than the conflicts that had defined it for so long. Luca had been the catalyst, the one who reminded the galaxy that there was more to strength than sheer power or advanced weapons. It was creativity, collaboration, and the heart that truly mattered. As the news of Luca's victory spread across the galaxy, humans found themselves at the center of a new, hopeful chapter. Humans, once seen as the underdogs, were now becoming key players in intergalactic diplomacy. Other species began to reach out, not with suspicion or disdain, but with an open hand. Humans, in their innocence and simplicity, had shown that peace was not only possible but essential for survival. Luca was hailed as a hero, but he remained humble. The victory wasn't his alone. It belonged to every species that had fought alongside him, every ally that had supported him, and every sacrifice that had been made along the way. But Luca knew that true victory wasn't about glory or fame. It was about the future, a future that held both challenges and opportunities. As he stood at the edge of the space station, staring out at the vastness of the galaxy, Luca couldn't help but feel a sense of wonder. The stars stretched out before him, each one a reminder of the countless worlds that now had a chance for peace. He had unlocked the secrets of the galaxy's hardest puzzle, but he also understood that this was just the beginning. There were still many challenges to face, many lessons to learn. Luca's mind wandered to what lay ahead. What new puzzles would humanity face? What new conflicts would arise? And most importantly, how would humans continue to shape the future of the galaxy? These questions weighed on him, but they didn't frighten him. Humanity had already proven its worth. Now, it was time to take the next step. The galaxy had changed, but it had only just begun to evolve. The new alliances forged from the ruins of old conflicts were fragile, and many would still resist. But with the creativity and heart of humanity leading the way, there was hope. The future was no longer something to fear. It was something to build, to shape, to create together. As Luca gazed up at the stars, he could see the first signs of change. Ships from different species, each with its own unique design and purpose, moved in unison, their paths converging. Humanity, once an isolated species on the fringes of the galaxy, was now a respected and valued member of the galactic community. And as those ships passed by, Luca smiled to himself, knowing that this was just the beginning. The real puzzle had just begun. The camera zoomed out, showing the vast expanse of the galaxy. The stars glittered like diamonds, each one representing a possibility, a new challenge, and a new opportunity. The screen faded to black, and the words, "The real puzzle has just begun," appeared, hinting at a future filled with new adventures, challenges, and intergalactic cooperation. Luca, the child who had solved the galaxy's hardest puzzle, had unlocked more than just a secret. He had unlocked the door to a future where anything was possible. And the galaxy, forever changed, would look to humanity not as inferiors, but as equals, as allies in the grand adventure of the cosmos.